Alright, we're back with the High Council post-draft this time. Now we can talk about the draft, talk about the strategies. Today we got our special guest back. We got mpaz back. Competition this season was in Triple P last time, so now we have to face him if we don't give away all our strategies. And we got SrSplash with us, we got mpaz with us, and we're going to get into it. So as we kind of talked about in our last video, going into the draft, we could tell that the outfielders were going to run really quick. There's just a high demand of outfield. Everyone needs at least 3, but everyone's probably going to run backups, and there really isn't that many. So we kind of talked about the strategy of trying to secure some outfielders early in the draft. And that ended up working out pretty well for us, I would say. And then also same thing pitching-wise. Obviously, everyone needs 7 pitchers, and there was literally barely enough pitchers to complete that demand. And half of them are dog shit, so we wanted to make sure that we ate them up early. And let's look at the draft. So we ended up having the 13th pick. If you remember back on our last video, I actually had 13 S-tier players, so it worked out pretty well. And our rank 1 player was Oda, because we value that two-way ability of being an extra pitcher, not counting towards the pitcher count. And guess who got rank 1 player at what? What pick did you have first? Pick 8?
9.
9? Oh, sorry, I can't count. But how do you feel about getting Oda at the 9th pick?
I thought it was pretty funny that we both had him number 1 on the board. How do I feel? I mean, I would. I was really torn on getting one of the best pitchers, but it was hard to let a bat and a pitcher go. But
Yeah,
I definitely felt it later in the draft for me because my pitching staff's the weakest because I didn't necessarily get one of those big pieces in the first round. So I'm
yeah,
torn. I'm split. We'll see how it goes though.
that's fair. I feel like you want that automatic. I will put up a shutout slash 1 run earned type of pitcher. So like a lot of those top original fastball guys are kind of those guys, and then there's a couple more too that you can sprinkle in there. But I feel like those top 4, it's like yeah, it's worth it. Like Unkai, Myojin, even Kiba, and some guys like that. But after that, it's maybe more of a wash. So it's definitely tough. But you really only had, I guess you had Mileman and Kiba pretty much were the only ones I would really even consider over Oda, sorry, Oba.
Yeah, I thought about Kiba. I knew you would pick Kiba if I didn't, because you were 13, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
13. Yeah,
yeah,
I was
but
definitely hoping for Mileman or Kiba once I saw the board kind of falling, but I ended up getting Kiba, which is pretty dope. So our first pick, of course, as we kind of just said, was Kiba. So we got one of those top original fastball pitchers. Kind of set us up for the rest of the draft. And then also what's nice about Kiba is he can kind of slide into that DH role if he needs to. So like I don't have to worry about that later in the draft. So that's pretty dope. Last time we actually didn't really have many good hitting pitchers. So we ended up having to take Hino in the middle of the draft, which he's definitely a good value, but he it's just a waste of a pick. Like you'd rather roll compress and have multiple rolls in one spot. But so then snaking back around, we kind of talked again about we really want outfielders early because the outfielders are so thin. You can kind of see here green is outfield. You had Toy was the first pick, which obviously a good pick there. As far as locking down an outfielder spot, Slime took Kagami and Samba Matsu at the end of the first turn there, and it was very funny because I texted the squad and I said, I guarantee, or I don't know my exact words, but I said, I'm going to guess Slime takes Kagami and Samba Matsu because I know those are his boys. And he literally took Kagami and Samba Matsu. So that was nice there. But again, so only 2 outfielders went in the first round. And are outfielders that, like, are there outfielders that are the top players? No, I don't think so. Like, I would say a lot of these players are better than outfielders, or better than the top outfielders. But when there is such a thin spot after this, you have to kind of take it. They're gonna the drop off from like these top outfielders that are here to the mid slash shit outfielders after. I mean, you gotta take the good ones while you can. So I was between Saga and Victor here. I honestly, I was kind of leaning Victor at first for the menace ability, but then I ended up going Saga. I'm kind of undecided if I goofed that because I ended up only with one menace slash intimidator hitter in the draft, which kind of blows. But um, I did take Saga there, and that's still going to be a good pick, I'm sure. But so we talked about hopefully going into the draft that we get a top pitcher and an outfielder, and then that's exactly what happened. So we got. I'm surprised Saga still made it back to me, honestly, in this spot. But I thought at least Victor and Saga would be gone by now, and then I'd be more of a shitty decision at this turn. But it ended up working out pretty well. Any thoughts, mpaz or SrSplash? I know we talked about that a lot going into the draft.
Yeah, it seemed like things went pretty according to prediction there. I think Slime's a little bit of an unpredictable drafter there. You never know what he's going to do. So it was surprising to see that Saga or Koldberg weren't the second outfielder off the board. I think, which ended up working out well for you.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that literally only those two outfielders went before I took Saga there, which is crazy.
I think everybody was worried about pitching, but while this was happening, like so with the ninth pick, I was like right dead in the middle, and I thought I was going to be happy with that pick, but I realized was actually probably better to be on the back half where you were, Pump, because of this first two rounds.
Yep. Yeah.
Basically, yeah, all the good pitchers were taken, and then coming back around to get an outfielder. But like by the time it got to me, there was like no good outfielder worth the pick, unfortunately.
Bro,
And so,
you had Victor. What the hell? You took Isu, right?
sorry, what?
You could have had Victor.
No, I thought he was taken.
No, he went after you. YG took him.
Okay, well,
God damn it.
he sucks.
Because I remember Matt Pass texted me. He's like, "Damn, YG has like the same exact draft as you right now because he basically took I think it was Myojin, which is a better version of like Kiba, I would say, and then he got Victor, who's like pretty much the same. So I think he won out just based on his pick spot there, but he started off very similar there of taking the top pitcher and then a top outfielder, and like that's a great start for him.
No, I was just saying like the draft for, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's that mini run of infielders right around Frisk.
Yeah, I mean, Frisk ended up taking ECO here. He's like one of the best defensive shortstops, and shortstop does have a big drop off, I would say, as far as like you have like a few top guys, and then it's like I would say it's very deep, but deep of usable guys, but there is a drop off from that top to the bottom there. So like similarly, we had Tomozawa rated pretty high. Also, he can pitch a little bit, not really well, but still gives you that option. But he's a top player too. So we kind of had Kimura, Isioi, and Tomozawa rated pretty high, I would say, going into the draft.
Yeah, I think in hit cursor, your infield is way more important than probably it is for any other, I guess, lock on levels. And so, I mean, I went hard up the middle because of how many ground balls you see squirt through or bloopers you see hit.
I agree with
The blue,
the bloops.
especially given how so many of these people it seems like are going to be going for contact swings just based on not having experience with no log on.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are scared to even power swing, so I think we'll see a shift halfway through the season. So we didn't really talk about it too much in the first video, and I think Frisk has kind of mentioned this in like our messages, but I do think that we're gonna see like a huge rise in power hitters like halfway through the season because people are gonna realize a lot of these pitchers being used are just completely terrible, and like you can easily line up against these slow and crappy movement pitchers swinging for power, and like there's nothing to really stop you. So I think they're going to be really dangerous. All the power hitters halfway through the season, like when things pick up, it's just going to be a home run derby for a lot of these pitchers. It's like hyper offense league, but the pitchers are even worse.
Yeah, how many home runs you hit with Kiyomoto in last season?
Yeah, last season, we got 9 homers for Kiyomoto. 7 for Fukuya, and 5 for Shibuya per the stat sheet. Again, no reason why we can't surpass that this season, I think. For at least Fukuya, that's all we got. No one else really, but
Also, at this point, you're not going to be switching between consoles, so
yeah, well, it's still a Switch only, so it's still going to be not great, but we'll see how it goes. I got the new controller. We'll see if I like it.
Gotta learn that input delay.
That's pretty much the main thing. It's like definitely shitty input delay. Hopefully the better capture card will help with that. Anyway,
You can actually fix that, Pump. So if you use a controller, if you plug in the USB to USB-C, and you go into the controller settings and change it so that it doesn't connect via Bluetooth, then you use the hardwire.
Look at that. Easy fix.
Yeah, we'll have to try that. Hey, I'm gonna delete that. We gotta delete that from the video. Jeez.
That's getting cut.
Let our opponents see that. Anyway, going into the third round, got some more going on. Frisk takes Sumera there. And then I end up taking Garcia, another top outfielder. So I was, again, just looking at all these outfielders not get picked, and I was like, hey, yo. So, again, YG took Victor. We're going down. No outfielders were taking until, like, within 3 picks of me. I was actually kind of looking at Murasame here because I figured Garcia was going to go way earlier. And I was like, man, I think if I take Murasame, that leaves my outfield, like, way more flexible than taking a Vanguard here. But then both Murasame and Vanguard went right before me, and then I was still able to get Garcia. So still got another well-rounded outfielder, pretty good defensively. And then that basically let me say, okay, corner outfield doesn't really matter, like not a big priority anymore. I have 2/3 of my outfield is pretty good defense. So at this point in the draft, I was like, unless there's a player that's like significantly better, I'm not going to take another outfielder for a while. And that was kind of my thoughts at that point. Frisky takes Samara there over a couple of interesting pitchers, I would say. Are you a big fan of Samara?
I think for no lock on, yes. Particularly because of the gold iron ball, and he has a good enough pitch mix. I think that what is it, like a level 4 screwball and like a level 3 or 4 curveball, and so now he's obviously not the he probably wasn't the best pitcher on the board, but I felt like I needed a starter that I could rely on outside of like for the number one or for the tougher matchups.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like an innings eater per se.
We'll see how you do with him, because I was looking back at the Hyper Offense League stats, and I remember that Moose had Sumera. He had a nice 10.13 ERA, so hopefully it does a little bit better than that. But I trust in you. I trust in your pitching.
I mean, there wasn't like, I mean, this is kind of the thing. There wasn't a picture I was really excited about. There's obviously a few that could have worked, but I kind of wrote off pitching for myself for this entire draft.
Gotcha.
And then just going all in defense and offense.
Yep. Yeah, the next pitcher's off the board. Hinoa, Karama, Fukamizu, Kagurazaka, nothing really special. And then I end up taking Yamino, which is kind of hit or miss. I think I like his velocity a lot, and he has got good stamina, so kind of happy with that pick there, that I was able to get him. And like honestly, I would probably rather have Yamino over those last pitchers I just said, other than maybe Fukamizu's outfield versatility there. But overall, I'm always a big fan of Yamino. I've had him on several of my draft teams, so happy with that. And then you end up taking Kanihara, finally get one of those outfielder spots there. So again, I don't think we need to go through like every round like this, but again, I just want to kind of talk general themes. My dog is going crazy right now. Oh my god. You end up getting Saru. So again, I was kind of looking at the general positions going into the draft, and we thought that catcher was very deep as far as like there's many replacement level players considered like compared to each other. And then similarly, middle infield, you have those top group, and then it's kind of a lot of replacement value there. But I end up taking at the little data at this round, 5, and I was kind of torn on it because again I know there's so many other like potential backup catchers here, but a little known fact about the little data is he's actually like an okay pitcher too. So I was a little nervous going into the season about only having 7 pitchers with these rest rules. So I think that'll help me be a little bit more flexible during the season of how I use some pitchers. And then he is still, I think, a tier above some of these other bottom players. He's got pretty good ability. He's got like contact hitter and shit like that. So hopefully he's pretty good there.
Prior to the draft, we had talked about whether the good catcher ability was going to go early because people are going to have to try to really focus on stamina preservation. And instead, looking at the catchers, you had Yakimask at 4, Big Data also in the first round. And then you go down, the next catcher that was picked was Kyushu in round 3. So I guess that wasn't as big of an issue as we thought.
Yeah, Kyushu, and then Little Akari, Ninomiya. So catchers are going pretty quick. And I would say that like third on my board for catcher this season, as you kind of talked about with the rating the good catcher and things like that, was probably Little Data behind Yakimask and Big Data. So like to get him after several other catchers go, I was pretty happy with that. But
Going back to the kind of strategy with the pitchers, I think there was probably like 3 different groups of pitchers that you wanted to look at. You had the aces that have really no flaws and are kind of dominant, and you have the tier of good pitchers that all have some kind of drawback, whether it's Yamino's abilities or whatever it may be. And then once you get past that tier, it's just like the bad pitchers that you have to find a redeeming quality in.
Yep, absolutely. So like you're gonna have, and then again, there's basically, can you get outs with this pitcher in like some way, as far as they have to be able to do something well, kind of as what you're saying. But there's a tier below that, which is these are borderline unusable and good luck, which
Like I think someone drafted Akutsu, who is strictly a pinch runner and
Yep.
like might have to throw them. So
yeah, I really think that people don't understand how crappy it's going to be to try to manage pitcher rest with these rules. I think we have that extra experience with the deuce of literally using these rules already. But our pitching bullpens were, 9 players deep, and now we're at 7? At least 9. I think a lot of teams had 10. And going into a season like this, if you run into any trouble, you're never going to get out of the hole. Like, you will not be able to get your pitchers back from rest, so without, like, throwing a position player. I think teams are going to wake up pretty bad. Like, I think in the middle of the season, there will be games where teams will have literally 1 or 0 pitchers available, and then they're not going to know what to do. And like, especially teams that have 6 pitchers or like 5 pitchers, or you really have to be considerate, like very considerate of what you're going to do strategy wise, because you're going to run into a hole very quick, and then it's very hard to get out of that hole once it happens.
Whose pitching staff do you think looks the most dicey?
Dicey? Let's see.
Like based off what you said.
Let's go to the teams.
Like who just
Couple of them
looking
don't
at
even
it,
have-
you're like, ooh, Alex top.
Couple-
Yeah, Big
couple
Sid. It looks
don't
like
even
one
have
is
7.
7.
Yeah, I would say like Slimes is pretty tough. He does have 7 pitchers, but like let's look at his pitchers. He's got Fakimizu. This is basically his ace. Hisakata, Tachikawa, Kino, Arashi. Like not a single person on there is lights out pitching. So, and if you don't have lights out pitching, you're going to be using these guys like a lot. And we kind of talked about it before. You throw 6 innings, you're sitting 2 games. You're out for the rest of the series, let's say. But you have to, like, if you go like 4 innings, you're still sitting 2. Like if you get knocked out of the game before 6 innings, you're cooked. And if you throw 3 innings, 3, that's 3 pitchers out. So you could do like that every game, but you have to get through those 3 innings again. So It's going to be like very interesting to see what teams do. So I think Slime's in a tough spot. Big Sid's got his
Other
like big three, so like he probably feels confident in those three: Doe, Suzukaze, Kagrazaka. As someone who used Suzukaze last season, stamina wise, he definitely he definitely struggles. Um, as far as like getting through the game, so I think he's gonna only be able to go at least 6. So, but Doe and Kagrazaka, I think Doe is definitely good. He's got like super high ass stamina. Kagrazaka's B, so we'll see. And then after that, he's got like Trash Can for Banda. He's got Tezuka and Tamane. So like Tezuka is probably usable. Tamane, I'd say, is another Trash Can. So really, just no backup behind that. So you get that start of the game, boom, done. And but like that, those are the two I would say like, there might be no pitchers literally available. But then other teams kind of have like some other thing going on. So Penguin's also very thin too. He's got Dagogetsu as far as very good innings eater. But Papillon's going to be a quick inning guy because he's going to be playing the field and also has E stamina. Kokoro can get through games, I would say. B stamina, I want to say off the top of my head. But probably going to be in the outfield a lot. Teramoto has been okay as a starter. Inuki's okay. But that's pretty thin too. I mean, a lot of these teams are pretty thin. It's so we talked about going into the draft trying to get the pitchers early, and we did beat basically the huge run. I would say we can kind of like, let's go look at our team. So a lot of these
the
teams are thin. But
staff I think is going to be pretty interesting. Is X Long X's team? He picked 3 pitchers right off the start with Yaki Mask, Red, and Rebu. So his front end is going to be pretty solid there. But then you look at his back half, and he's got both versions of Abada and Akutsu. So if you bring in Abada and he's getting touched up, like, are you going to bring in the exact same thing as the other Abada, and are you going to go to Akutsu? Like, once his starter gets knocked out of the game, it could get pretty dicey there for him.
yeah, I agree. And like again, so we talked about strategy wise. Do you go 6 innings and then someone for 3, or do you try to go 9? But when you only have 3 top pitchers, then you're gonna have to throw 6, I would say. And then what are you going to do in those last 3 innings? You're going to have to throw again those Abadas and those Akutsus type pitchers. Versus like some teams I think did play it well and get like at least a top 4, so that way you can just try to go 9 every game and then you have 3 backups basically. But teams that only have like 3 guys, it's like, oh man, it's going to be dicey. So like Haha Healy's team, he's got Unkai, Arai. Those are some top ones, and then it's kind of after that. Compass's team's got Hakuto, Ghost, Simon, Shiroyama, Tome, Sakurazawa, Sana. A lot of teams are going to have to use shitty pitchers for a lot of the season. So I think people don't realize how much they'll have to use these crappy pitchers. Like in the past for WBSC, you just kind of throw your best player for as much as you want because they're only going to sit 2 games. If you do that now, they're going to sit 3 games, and like that's going to be really tough.
I think
I don't
Frisk
know if
had
you
a
want to.
very great idea with getting that middle infield secure, because if you're trying to stick with your main guys, but you keep giving up those blue hits, you're gonna run out of stamina real quick.
Like I would say like we can talk with Frisk about this right now, but your draft of pitchers, I think you played it well based on where you picked your pitchers, what type of pitcher you're picking. You picked pitchers that can go many innings in the throughout the draft. So you got Sumera, Roddy, Kamitaka, I don't know about Atsumori, but Ichinose, Mizuno, and Inukawa. So like you're hoping that they can go deep if they need to, or you just go kind of relay and just say whatever. But it's going to be interesting.
I think it's gonna. I don't know if you want to keep this in the video, but here's was my thought process in going through this. Basically, because stamina is going to become an issue, and because everybody's bullpen's an issue, everyone is going to try and throw their best pitchers for as long as possible. And so if you can force pitchers to go deep, then you really mess up their plans to either who to pitch when throughout each game of the season, but you also force them to go their bullpen sooner. And so with that in mind, I have a feeling way more individuals are going to feel the pressure to throw strikes because they're not going to walk. They're not going to want to get deep into accounts. And on the converse, or the other side of that, I think the better hitters in the league are going to really over-index in being patient, specifically to make pitchers work harder. And it's really going to come down to who's good at press twice or not.
Yeah, I
Because
100% agree.
because you could just sit and wait, and if it looks like if it's a borderline pitch, like you don't even really need to. You just wait for something that catches a lot of plate and just be ready not to miss that pitch.
Yep.
Um, but someone like Compass who can high percentage press twice, you're getting pretty good at it too, Pump. And I put myself in that category too. We're probably going to be a little bit more dominant than others that rely on ineffective pitching or just the best pitchers to kind of bail them out of bad placement or missed locations or things like that.
Yeah.
I think if I was playing in this, I would 100%. My hitting strategy would be I'm taking until I have a strike every time. Force them to use up that stamina.
Yeah, it's you're taking or you're just sitting one spot and saying, I'm not swinging unless it's right here, pretty much. Which I've often employed in WBSC because, like, I know even in the past, you want to kind of force the starter out and get people to their crappy pitchers. But now that's even more the case. However, to kind of counteract that type of strategy, which is probably what I'm hoping to be able to do in this case, is to just say my starters are going 6 innings pitched, and if they can easily get 6 innings pitched, then you don't have to worry about that, because then after that, you're not caring about stamina at all. You're just saying all I need to do is get to 6 innings. So I think that my team is well built for that. We have Kiba, Yamino, and then probably Onishi as like our 3 6-inning guys. And then after that, you have kind of more flexibility of either alternating games between Yakuman 2 and like a Fukami. You also have Arima and Yakuman 1 that can kind of be like 1-inning people too. So I think that we're well set up pitching staff wise. And then again, we kind of talked strategy wise of drafting wise. But we basically took 4 straight pitchers right in the middle of the draft while everyone's trying to fill out the rest of their lineup. Because we were saying, like, going into this, I'm just going to sacrifice a couple positions. So that those positions ended up really being first base and corner outfield. But I was able to basically secure my entire pitching staff by round 13. And then you can kind of see in the rest of the draft for everybody else, they have to kind of go heavy pitchers to fill out the rest of their bullpen. But at this point, it's all unusable people for the most part. So like 3 pitchers, 2 pitchers, 1, 2, 2. So I think, and then Compass, I think, did the same thing as well. So I think he kind of instinctively noticed that as well. Trying to get that bullpen basically locked up early, so you don't have to use these crappy pitchers at the end.
Yeah, Compass's last pitcher pick was round 14, so right around you. Clutch was the same, 14. But then, yeah,
I wonder.
some of these. Go ahead.
I wonder if people realize how not fun it is to try to hit Yakuman too. Like I'm seeing like Yamaguchi went before him, and
Yeah, I know. He just
like-
I had him in that draft board. I think we did like the tier list, and he was, I want to say like B tier. I had him, but like he was on there for a long time, and all my other B tier guys were long gone at that point. So it was pretty funny. Worked out pretty well. All right, I think draft wise, that's pretty much it. Again, we kind of talked about what as far as what could go better. You want to start with what you thought you could have done better during the draft, or what you feel like you missed out on, Frisk, and then I'll talk about mine.
Yeah, I think probably what I could have done better is probably had a better plan for the middle tier fielders. Pitching wise, I knew I wasn't going to go after pitching and just going to trust my skill to trying to get me through pitching, and I knew people would undervalue guys like Ichinose who can be really effective against a lot of individuals. But when it came to like the fielders, like after I found myself round around, like choosing who I wanted, and that individual would get selected before I would. And so I feel like I was a round or two off where I thought everybody would get drafted. And so I ended up having to take my second or third choice often.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that, like, I will say the position that happened to me for was first base. I thought I was going to be able to get a high power, good first baseman late because I thought people weren't going to want to use them. So right around when Onowake was picked, he was like at the top of my like little segment of that. You ended up taking Onowake there. He's got like gold homer, A power, so I was excited about that, but didn't end up getting him. It was like him, Daichi Man, Christine Maximum or whatever, and someone else, and I was like, man, I really want one of those guys. And then they all kind of went, so I was just like, all right, we'll stick with the pitcher plan and take another pitcher. But that was about the round where I was trying to snag one of them. But so I missed out on first base where I kind of wanted one, and then I ended up just taking like Yakiman 1, I think. So that was the round where I'm like, I can take a first baseman here, but I'll just take one of these usable pitchers. And then we've used Yakman 1 last season, actually did decently well, so I was like, as my second pitcher, that's going to be much better than a lot of these other spots. And then corner outfielder, same thing. My guy Matt Paz, my scouting director, kept trying to send me corner outfielders. He's like, well, this guy looks usable. And then I'm like, yeah. And then I ended up taking a pitcher instead, multiple rounds. And then they ended up getting sniped. So we ended up having to kind of use some shitty platoon out there. But we ended up going for like the more splashy / high impact players like Nubis and NATO armor version for powers. Give our lineup some more pop versus like a all around okay outfielder. But like Ogane was one we were trying to get for a long time. What was another one? Horasugi was the one that like we both kind of wanted. I had him on my draft board early, plus with the menace, and then he ended up getting taken, and I was sad. Good stuff. So, corner outfielder, first base gonna be kind of a struggle. But am I happy with my pitching staff? Yeah, I think like I'm glad I didn't sacrifice on my pitching versus sacrificing another position because I have to be able to get outs. So that's kind of the main thing there.
The silver lining with having to take Naito there is that he does have the good morale ability.
Yep. Yeah. I was
does
like halfway through those late rounds. I'm like, crap. Did I even take a morale player? And then I'm like, Control F through the database. I'm like, sweet. I already got 2. It was Naito and Amori both had good morale. So that was good.
Yeah, that morale ability is definitely something that it seemed Chris was focused on for other teams. It seemed like with the AFK board, that really seemed to come into play. Some teams getting bad morale players.
Yeah. And then one last
time.
I
mean, the whole ability. I was said the whole ability. The whole ability, like knowledge of abilities, I knew was going to come into play. Like also for middle to late rounds, like people understanding what does rally actually do, what does morale actually do, and that was going to prioritize other people, right? Or finding people that have kind of like hidden abilities, right? Like Ichinose has Tyrant, and he was like the last player that has Tyrant that was on the board for quite a while. Now he's obviously not as effective, and he's a starter, not a reliever, but he actually does pretty good. If you bring him in as a reliever, he just gets a hit to the break on his off speed pitches. But yeah, so all those little things, I was on high alert for that stuff, and I could tell that many others weren't paying attention. I laughed when Slime was thinking about drafting. Who is it? Hamasaki, who has Unlucky. I was like,
don't. I mean, that's basically when you get to the end of the rounds like that. I mean, you're just doing Control F and you're saying, what's a good ability? Let me see if anyone's left with that. That's pretty much how I did the same thing as well. I was like just looking for people with like contact hair or shit like that. But oh well. And then I just wanted to say one more time, like the part of my draft where I'm like, was kind of that middle section when all the shorts, there's like a huge shortstop run, and then I literally got back from a run, saw all the shortstops were gone, and I was like, ah, shit. And then I had like this Yakman 5, and then I missed Akuma again, like on my board completely. So like that's the one I'm like, damn, should have had Sakuma over Yakman 5. And then Fukuya and Data again were like one of those, the position is so deep for like replacement level value that I was like, do I really want to take them here? But at the same time, like they were so much better than the other positions around me. But like, could I have had a way better corner outfield? Like, is the trade-off of having Fukuya in a shit corner outfield better than having a mediocre third baseman? Like, what round did you take Shacho? But like, if I had like a Shacho and another corner outfielder instead, that's like actually usable, that would have been maybe better. I don't know. Nah, you took
Yeah, I assumed.
like 2 rounds
Santos
later. But,
rotate.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I assumed Shacho wouldn't be high on people's board, but he was higher on mine because of, I mean, how much I think power is going to matter in this league, and then obviously he's a legend defensively. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't look like he should be good defensively, but
I
he's
know. He looks like a
way
fat
good.
piece of shit, but he's good. He's like bees. Oh well, yeah. I think that's all for this draft talk. Thanks for watching. Peace. What an end. All right.